I'm not saying that Purdy's like a product of Christian McCaffrey, but to get the most out of Brock as a quarterback, his skill set, does he need an elite pass catching running back? Like he's compared to Drew Brees a lot. Drew Brees had Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara. That was a weapon that Sean Payton always gave him. Is that something that the Niners should have in mind as long as he's their franchise quarterback?
I think that you definitely want to have a super quick underneath safety valve on your roster that could also serve as a return man. So I don't know who that guy is. I don't know that guy exists right now. But yeah, Darren Sproles, like if you could add a Darren Sproles in his prime to what the Niners have, and they had a really remember that guy Harris who Green Bay had for a while? It was like a 5'7" guy, and they just
DeJuan
Harris
for a second, yeah.
Yeah, he was a Niner for a while. Yeah,
he was.
And he's like 5'7" guy, but he was it was like 5'7", 205 or 5'7", 210. He was really thick and he could catch it and he was quick. Somebody like that who you could dump it to, kind of a running back version of Tyreek Hill would be awesome. Just anybody who could be a safety valve that Brock could dump it to at the last second, who then could be dynamic in space would be definitely appreciated.
It does seem like Brock benefits from McCaffrey in a lot of ways. Any quarterback would. One, you're going to get a lot less too high coverages. You're going to get a lot of 8 men in the box, which opens up everything. In addition, with McCaffrey in there, you're going to get a lot of zone. If he's out, you're going to get a lot of 2 deep man under, which is brutal to throw against. So that's when you see very small throwing windows. So it seems like for any quarterback is going to be tougher. And for Brock in particular, once McCaffrey's back, all of a sudden he seems like unstoppable sometimes. Granted, Tampa's awful on defense, but he was really good in this game.
Well, and I mentioned it to Kyle. I was asking him about explosives, and he was like, do we have more explosives? I'm like, I don't know if it was more this week, but it was every single weapon. So JJ had one, Pearsall had one, Kittle had one. I mean, literally every guy that played this week had an explosive play of 30-plus yards or more. And I asked him how much does Christian play on that? And I know it's hard. It's a hard thing to say on each play. Sometimes he has no impact on it, but sometimes he has huge impact. So anytime you have a big play guy with speed that becomes a primary that tilts the field, so to speak, it's going to open things up for everybody else. And we saw it this last week.
The one thing, though, they had the 30-yard throw to Jennings, a 30-yard throw to McCaffrey, 32 to Samuel, 46 to Pearsall, and 33 to Kittle. The longest rush of the day for the Niners was 13 yards. So maybe that's why Kyle Shanahan was wondering about the explosives, because they weren't there in the running game. You know what? Who cares? If you get them, you get them. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, they weren't there in the run game. I thought Tampa did a very, very good job on Christian. I mean, they gave him that 5-yard run initially, but they bottled him up. They hit him with more than one body. They seemed like they were anticipating him getting the ball a lot, and he did, and they were ready for it.
Yeah, as long as he's on the team, he's going to be the number one concern of the opposing defense, no matter if he's getting yards after contact or not. And that will open things up for Kittle, Debo, Pearsall. Real quick, as an aside, I like Ricky Pearsall. I think he's pretty good. I was skeptical when they drafted him. I think he's pretty good. What do you think of Ricky?
He's very. I love the seriousness. I mean, he's an older soul. You know what I mean? He's not some guys are 22, 23. You know, it's like they still need to kind of figure it out. They're so excited to just be there. He's not just excited to be here. He wants to be a contributor. I think you're going to see a slow and steady ramp up where he just gets a little bit better, a little bit better. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the game where he goes over 100 yards for the first time in his career. Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of things about him. I love the ball skills. I like the confidence. He showed some wiggle after the catch. I like that little high step move. But I also, it's more from just talking to him, being around him a little bit. You can kind of see, I mean, he holds himself to a high standard. He's very serious. This was a great draft for not just the players they got, but the personalities and the maturity that they added in this draft class. And he's a big part of that. Let
me ask you this. If he hadn't had the subluxed shoulder in training camp and he'd been there every day and he was playing then like he is now, do you think the Niners would have extended Brandon
Ayuk? I would say they probably would have extended him anyway, but But if Ricky had shown like immediately, like, right mini camp, he house on fire, I think no. But once, since he didn't look, he looked okay. But then, of course, he had one really good day at minicamp. But then, of course, he got shot. Then it changed the whole trajectory. But I would think that Pearsall was brought in as a replacement, and that the plan was keep Debo or Ayuk, but not both. And then they wound up, keeping Ayuk, and now they've got kind of a little bit of a financial mess at wide receiver on their hands.
They really do. Like, they have two of the highest paid wide receivers in the league. And you could argue they don't really need either of them going forward. I mean, nothing against Debo and Ayuk, but I think if the Niners only had Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, George Kittle, for Purdy, that's more than enough. In fact, that's a hell of a supporting cast. And it's cost effective. So I think it's interesting, like, what is the future for those two high-paid wide receivers? Debo may not be on this team much longer, and Ayuk probably will be because of his injury. I wonder how that plays out over the next couple of years.
Well, I mean, this is kind of why I was hoping they would trade for some young receiver, whether it be a great one like a Garrett Wilson, or even like a Mingo, or just another young receiver, because I think next year you're going to be devoting $60 million to Debo and Ayuk, and I don't know that you're going to get. I'm pretty confident you're not going to get anywhere close to $60 million worth of production. So it's, I know it's crazy because they just drafted a receiver in the first round this year, and they've got Debo, they've got Ayuk, they've just drafted Cowing, but receiver has to be pretty high up on their list going into this offseason.
Absolutely. I mean, it's possible though that when Ayuk comes back from this devastating injury, it wasn't just an ACL, it was an MCL, it was a meniscus. It's possible that he's not the Brandon Ayuk he was in 2023, that he's an approximation, maybe 80%, who knows? And if that's the case, is he the best option to start? Is he one of their best receivers, or is it Jennings and Pearsall? I mean, he may not even be out there in training camp next year. It's going to be interesting to see how they reacclimate him to the team when he's ready.
I think the other thing that's going to be really interesting is, some of the talk around Jennings is that, Jennings has been productive in the past, but it's all due to the attention that the other guys are getting. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's see down the stretch here with no Ayuk, if Jennings can consistently produce like he did this last week, where he catches 7 or 8 balls for 100 yards, or does he get neutralized after a couple weeks when teams realize that, they're looking at him as more of a primary? Is he become a guy that other teams can shut down? If he excels this second half without Ayuk's presence on the field, then, maybe we really all misinterpreted the value of JJ.
Yeah, I mean, he was looked at as a slot receiver only, maybe like a glorified tight end, someone who runs 6-yard ins and outs. And that was his role. And now, because Ayuk's down, like they gave him the X receiver spot. And I mean, obviously you'd want your X receiver to be a lot faster than Jawan. Clearly you do. He doesn't stretch the field at all, but you can't press him. He's a good route runner. He creates enough separation to win. He's got great timing and chemistry with Brock Purdy. And then you look at Pearsall. Pearsall's a weapon in the slot. You can put him in that cheat motion. He's running all over the place. He can run jet sweeps. He's much more dangerous off the line of scrimmage than Jawan Jennings ever was. I think it's interesting.
I do too, because not only that, in a short amount of time, you can already kind of see the connection that Purdy and Pearsall have. So, I mean, it's going to be, I think that it's going to get nothing but better. I'll tell you the other thing I really want to see, and I don't know if this is a future topic this hour or not, but I want to see George Kittle in the passing game a whole lot more than George Kittle's been in the passing game. It's unacceptable to be like, oh, yeah, you've got this all-world tight end, but you don't really use him because you're keeping him in line to block. That's what Eric Saubert's for. And if Eric Saubert can't do it, then cut Braden Willis and go get yourself another blocking tight end. They got too many receiving tight ends that don't receive, and they're using their greatest receiving tight end to block. And it's like he only had 4 targets. He got 3 balls for 57 yards and a touchdown. Am I the only person out there that can see that George freaking Kittle right now is in a absolute great mode, and he needs to be fed the ball? He should have had 8 targets, 9 targets instead of 4. I mean, to me, if you don't have Ayuk, you have to compensate. How do you compensate? There's only so many options. Kittle's a primary option. Get a blocking tight end that you trust. Heck, Harbaugh's got a Boise State defensive tackle named Matlock at fullback / tight end / H-back. He uses him as a blocker. Go find a blocker, go develop a blocker, and get Kittle in the pattern.
Is it possible that the reason they're not throwing the ball to Kittle more, even though he's clearly their best receiver, is that he's hurt? He gets hurt. He comes off this game, 4 targets, 3 catches, hamstring injury, not practicing Wednesday. Does Kyle feel like, I'd love to give him 12 targets, but if I give him 12 targets, he may not play the next week at his age.
That's possible.
That's the only thing I can think of.
How serious is that hamstring? Is that a serious hamstring, or is that a Veterans Wednesday / hamstring?
I think it's a like with Kittle, he rarely actually misses a game. He doesn't practice all the time. He usually has at least one day off and he's limited, but he finds a way to practice. And I think people don't really understand that he's probably never 100% healthy.
Well,
if he is, they got to throw him the freaking ball. He's incredible.
Okay, if he's not 100% healthy, is the best game plan to have him block 275-pound defensive ends?
No, not at all.
You know, I mean, I don't know that you can protect a guy by putting him on the line of scrimmage and having him block. I mean, guys fall into guys' legs over, around the line all the time. I mean, he could have. It's not running patterns getting licked by strong safeties, but it could be big bodies falling into your legs and you going up against a guy who outweighs you by 30, 40 pounds. So, especially in this game against Draymond Jones, who weighs like 285, and McDonald's got him lined up at outside linebacker, and they're 3-4.
And look, you want him to have the career trajectory of Travis Kelce, not Rob Gronkowski. Maybe Rob Gronkowski was a better player than Travis Kelce, sure. But by the time he was 30, his knees had been taken out 1,000,000 times. Like, he just played such a physical style, both as a receiver and a blocker. He wasn't built to last, really. Kelce could keep doing this for years. And I think that's what the Niners, it's hard to find another great tight end. You might never find another great tight end. They got to find a way to keep him healthy, till he's 35, 36.
Here's one other idea back to the red zone. Every single red zone trip must include a pass to George Kittle.
Yeah.
I watch him with Brian Fleury during special teams drills right in front of us, and he'll just, he doesn't like to waste time. So he runs this back and forth drill. It's not even really a drill. It's just Fleury drapes over him. The ball boy throws it to Kittle, and Kittle tries to catch it with Fleury draped all over him. That's the red zone, basically, in a nutshell, kind of mocked up on a Wednesday or Thursday at practice. And he does it a lot. And guess what? He's really pretty good at it. And you've seen it against New England. You saw it this weekend. Get this guy a target in the red zone on every red zone trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you are trying to preserve him at 31 years old, throwing him the ball in the red zone is a great way to do it. He doesn't have to run very much. He's not going to get hit by throw it to him in the back pylon or the front pylon. It works.
And this is what he's practicing. Like, if we're watching him, we're there at practice. This is what he practices. He practices catching it in a short area with bodies around him, getting his feet down. This is what he practices regularly. I mean, he's at this point, I would say it's one of the strengths of his game. Utilize it.
One more thing too, assuming the Niners get to the playoffs, which is not necessarily a lock, but assuming they do, I'd like to see Kyle actually get the ball to Kittle for the first time. He's never done anything in the playoffs. It's not his fault. It's Kyle's fault. So if you need to get him there, feature Jennings and Pearsall, whatever you got to do if you're in the playoffs, when it's late December, early January, it would be such a shame if this guy ends up retiring and he never got featured in a playoff game. Like, come on, Kyle. It's on him.
I mean, there's a couple guys. We saw it yesterday at Fred's locker. Fred's like, I saw it yesterday with Fred talking on a pod. But Fred was talking about how, hey man, I'm all about. I got to get that Super Bowl win. I got to get the Super Bowl. I've been close. I've tasted it, and I haven't gotten it. I want it more than anything in my entire life. That's what he said. And it's like, you know what? I bet you George Kittle, if we interviewed him and asked him the same questions, I bet you he would say the exact same damn thing. I've tasted it. I want it. I won't be complete unless I get it. So you know what? Feature him in the playoffs because he's incredibly hungry. And to me, that's where it begins. If you get a really hungry player, that's where it begins. And if he's hungry, get him the ball in the red zone, especially in the playoffs.
He's one of the longest tenured players in the team. No one's been on the team longer than him. He probably should end his career with the 49ers and end his career in the Niners Hall of Fame and the NFL Hall of Fame. And it's really cool kind of to see him and Steph Curry at the same time to like even get better in their 30s and to get more respect and to produce in ways they haven't. I don't know why I'm comparing him to Steph Curry, but you know what I'm talking about there. Like all of a sudden, Steph Curry's in the conversation for being the greatest player of ever because of stuff he's done at 35 and 36. And I think Kittle's definitely adding to his legacy as well. Don't get in his way, Kyle. This is the best. I mean, there's no better competitor on the team than George Kittle. There isn't.
Feature him in the red zone in the second half of the year. I mean, when I say he's got to touch the ball, I mean, look at when you see him in the red zone attack the football, it's like, why wouldn't you throw it to him? Throw it to him, design something. And also maybe a couple plays where, you know, I'd like to see a little bit of some east-west in the red zone and around the goal line. I mean, it's like, take advantage of the width of the field. If there's one common denominator I've noticed with Ben Johnson and the Lions, they really do spread it out. And I know that creates a lot of holes and guys can shoot gaps and blow plays up, but I would try that. I would try to spread it out, especially since you have a quarterback who's got great agility and great first and second step quickness. It's like spread it out and you know, I like to spread out, maybe even empty the backfield and you know, make the defense defend the width of the field in the red zone because you got more width and you got length in the field at that point. And then put it on Brock to see if he can be accurate and make decisions faster than the defense can counter. I'll take my chances with that.
You know what play I love from like the 5-yard line in?
Which one?
Zone read for a quarterback who's not seen as a zone read guy. I mean, you never call that for him. But when CJ Beathard was the quarterback of this team, Kyle would do that
because it's an east-west. It's an east-west action,
and it's like no one's gonna honor it. It's freaking Brock Purdy. They've never called that play this season. It's begging to be called, and it would be a touchdown. It'd be a walk-in touchdown. Why not? Use him as a runner. We saw Herbert get used as a runner in this last game. He had like a quarterback sweep for a touchdown. That was cool. That was creative. Purdy could do that.
I'll give you another idea. You know who gets used an inordinate amount of time for the Kansas City Chiefs in the red zone, and he's used them against the Niners repeatedly? Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. Yep.
Mecole Hardman doesn't do squat. Mecole Hardman never catches anything. He can't catch a cold. But in the red zone,
at the 12-yard line, the jet sweep's coming.
In the red zone, lined up in the backfield, you're shaking in your boots because it's like if you take one wrong step, he's in the end zone.
That could be Cowing. That could be Pearsall.
How about this? How about a formation where you have either McCaffrey or Cowing or both, or McCaffrey or Garendo or both in the backfield, and have them mesh point and have them go east-west and make the defense choose. And then maybe you have a wide spread and you send Cowing to the right, you send McCaffrey to the left, and Purdy's got options on the flanks. And if there's nothing there, he can run it up the middle. I mean, spread them out, make them make quick decisions, put it in Brock's hands and go and use more east-west action. I feel like the Niners love the condensed formation, but they don't have the line to kick you out of the club. Yep. And without McCaffrey, they didn't have the quick weapon that they could rely upon. And then it comes down to play call creativity, and they haven't been that creative. So, the 0 for 3 means you're not going to be good in the red zone. They're 0 for 3. They're not good in the red zone.
That's my one thing with teams that major in the outside zone. It's great. You always are going to be very efficient. You're going to have a lot of yards per carry. But when you're inside the 10, you can't knock the other team off the ball. You're not pounding the rock. You're not resetting the line of scrimmage. You're stretching them out to the sideline. And that's really effective when you're on your own 20, because you got all that field they have to account for. Even, but when you're on your 10 and the safeties are right there, it's not always the most effective. That's why Kyle needs to be a little bit more misdirection. You know what I mean? Fake the outside zone and let Brock Purdy do a naked bootleg. Like, you used to see that every game in the 90s. Every game in the red zone. Peyton Manning running a naked bootleg. He's the slowest quarterback in the league, but it worked. Like, where is that play? I love that play.
Especially if you have a quarterback that's got some quickness and some vision. And I feel like Brock's got those traits. He's got quickness. He's got vision. He can see the field. He'll take chances. He can throw with anticipation. I mean, the scramble drill, that's kind of what happened on the Kittle, on the Brock dime to Kittle in the corner. It was one play called. It turned into a scramble drill. Brock bought some time. He moved. He found Kittle. I mean, you make a defense play defense for 7, 8, 9 seconds in the red zone, you're going to score.
Yeah.
No question. Love to see them. They have to convert a little bit better because they're what, second in the NFL in red zone trips, but they're like 26th in the NFL in like red zone touchdown percentage.
It is not a talent issue. It's a predictability. It's a play calling issue. And
they're leaving too much meat on the bone, though. They're leaving too many points on the field. I mean, they should have won that game by 20.
And again, it's ironic that Deebo Samuel blows up at Jake Moody for not making 6 field goals. It's like, man, why are you asking your kicker to make 6 field goals? Like, how about take it upon yourself to score touchdowns? Not to rehash that again, but like, yo, it's not okay to just score 2 touchdowns and point the finger at Jake for not being perfect or being completely awful. Not to make excuses for Jake, but still, I mean, it's not like the offense really did its job either.
Right. I mean, you know, he 6 field goal attempts.
That's not.
If you were in an elevator and someone said, "Hey, Grant, I didn't see the Niners-Bucks game. Give me something. The doors are about to close. You just look back and you go 6 goddamn field goal attempts.
That doesn't sound good.
And then the doors
close. Sounds like a game they could have lost.